11 affordable fragrances with a nice tobacco note in them. Hey guys, I'm George, the nice medic gentleman, and it's time for your dose of some fragrance content. In today's video I'm going to talk about the note of tobacco, which is one of my most favorite notes in perfumery, probably second only to the note of iris, which is my most favorite one. And in a future video I'm probably going to do a similar type of video about affordable fragrances with a nice iris note in them, but today I'm going to go with the note of tobacco. Now I've included 11 fragrances in today's video. They have one thing in common: all of them are very affordable. Some of them are cheaper, others are more expensive but offer higher quality. And I'm going to start with the two most inexpensive fragrances that I've included in today's video. They come from the brands of Maison Alhambra and Paris Corner. I'm going to start with the one from Paris Corner, which is called Milano Privé. And this fragrance is a clone of a nice original designer fragrance that has been discontinued for a while. The original fragrance is called 1 Million Privé. Now, the original fragrance was a very nice creation, something that smelled very different to all the other members of that original 1 Million line, but for some reason, that fragrance got discontinued, although it has quite a following, and especially after it was discontinued, a lot of people started looking at getting a bottle of 1 Million Privé. It was a very nice creation. It's a sweet tobacco based fragrance with a nice amount of tobacco that feels soft, that feels sweet along with all the other notes, and as I said, it feels very different to the other fragrances in that 1 Million line. Nowadays, if you really want to get a full bottle of 1 Million Privé, you probably have to be ready to spend a lot of money, like over $200 and maybe even more on eBay, if you're looking for a full unsealed bottle of 1 Million Privé. The good thing is that we have a very nice clone from Paris Corner. Milano Privé smells very similar to the original fragrance. It offers a very similar scent profile, offers nice quality and very decent performance, and all that for a very affordable price tag. This usually can be found for something like 20-25 euros, $20-$30 in the US, so it's a lot more inexpensive than the original fragrance. And unless you really want to get a bottle of 1 Million Privé, Milano Privé from Paris Corner should do the trick to get you smelling close to that discontinued nice original fragrance. The next one that I've included in today's video comes from the brand of Maison Alhambra, and it's called Hercules, and it's one of the cheapest fragrances in my collection, at least at the time that I got my bottle of Hercules. This used to be crazy cheap. I think I paid something like 13-14 euros, so less than $20. This of course is heavily inspired by an original fragrance from Parfums de Marly, which is called Herod. And Hercules is actually a great little cologne. It's one of those very nice gems from the brand of Maison Alhambra. I was really surprised at the quality of this fragrance and how close it actually manages to get to to Herod itself. It's another sweet tobacco based fragrance with a bit of spiciness, maybe some woods going on the dry down. Very nice, very wearable tobacco based scent that it's masculine, but probably girls can pull this one off because of the amount of sweetness that this one has. Again, crazy inexpensive, at the same time offers really nice quality and smells very similar to Herod itself. Also, another thing that this is that this fragrance does well is the performance. It lasts for a good amount of time on my skin. This is almost lasts as long as current formulations of Herod itself. So if you're looking for a crazy inexpensive cheap clone of Herod, then I think Hercules is a nice choice. Now I'll move on to a couple of fragrances that are a little bit more expensive than the first two that I showed you, but still can pass as very cheap ones. The first one comes from the brand of Gulf Orchid. I recently did my full review on this one. It's called Sweet Heaven Tobacco, and this fragrance is a part of a mini line of fragrances which include other stuff like Sweet Heaven Extreme, Sweet Heaven Cherry, Sweet Heaven Mint. I think there's also a fragrance. This is called Sweet Heaven Tobacco because it has a tobacco note. Now, to be fair, the tobacco note in here is not overly strong, it's not like super prominent, keep that in mind. But it's done in an interesting way because the whole scent, the whole fragrance smells pretty similar to something like Latafa Hamra, but has the inclusion of a tobacco note. So basically you can think of this very unisex scent that relies on a lot of sweet notes. The smells very oriental, has some spices. This one has a bit of greenness going on as well. I think there's a Davana note in here which is not overly strong or anything like that, and you'll also get the inclusion of a tobacco note. To be honest, I personally expected this one to have more tobacco in it. There's definitely the tobacco in here, but it plays more of a support role. It's more of a subtle tobacco note, but still it's in here. And the whole combination of combining fragrances like Latafa Hamra and adding a tobacco note in that is actually quite interesting. It smells nice, it smells unisex, although the tobacco note may make it lean a little bit more to the masculine side. Offers nice quality and decent performance. It's not a beast by any means, but definitely performance is, I would say, above average, and it's a nice fragrance for the cold weather. The next one comes from the brand of Latafa, and it's called qaa'ed Intense, and this is a very nice gem from Latafa. This fragrance is heavily inspired by Givenchy Gentleman Reserve Privé. So you'll get, again, a sweet tobacco-based fragrance with a little bit of booziness, with an iris note which adds powderness, maybe a bit of a chestnut note which adds a bit of warmth on the dry down. It's an interesting creation that smells very similar to, to Reserve Privé. And from my experience, this actually outperforms the original fragrance. It's not an exact clone. It's more like a small twist, but smells really nice, and I've been really enjoying qaa'ed Intense. Now, I've heard rumors that this fragrance has been discontinued. If that's the case, that's very unfortunate in my opinion, because first of all, this smells very similar to Reserve Privé, and it's one of the best clones of Reserve Privé that you can get, affordable clones. And the second reason is because this is a very nice and very long-lasting fragrance, at least from my own experience. So if it's been, if it's been discontinued, that's a shame in my opinion. But if you can still find this fragrance somewhere to buy, and if you like Reserve Privé, then this I think is a great choice. The next one that I've included in today's video is a fragrance, a scent profile that's very popular at the moment. It's a clone of Jean Paul Gaultier's Le Male Elixir. There are a few very nice clones of Le Male Elixir. One of the best ones in my opinion comes from the brand of Armaf, and it's called Club de Nuit Lionheart. This is probably my most favorite clone of Le Male Elixir. This smells very similar to Le Male Elixir, so you're getting that sweet backbone of the original fragrance with the honey, with the vanilla, with a hint of mintiness, some lavender, a hint of spiciness, and of course the tobacco note. I find this one to be a little bit more spicy than the original fragrance from Jean Paul Gaultier, but other than that, the scent is very similar. It's a very nice fragrance that I think was a great release from the brand of Armaf. Offers really nice quality and very strong performance. It's not only one of the best clones when it comes to the quality and how close it smells to the original fragrance, but it's also one of the best performing clones of Le Male Elixir that you can get. And I think Armaf did a great job with Lionheart. This, along with probably Hawas Elixir, are the two very best clones in my experience of Ultra Male that you can get at the moment. The next one comes from the brand of Rayhaan, and it's called Rayhaan Crimson, and this is a fragrance that's heavily inspired by an original fragrance from Creed, which is called Creed Centaurus. So this is an interesting tobacco-based fragrance. It has sweetness just like a lot of the other tobacco-based fragrances that I'm about to show in this fragrance, but this is probably the one that feels the freshest. There's a bit of greenness and a bit of mintiness in this one that, to be honest, like I've always found this, especially the opening, to smell like if you take a toothpaste and add a little bit of tobacco in it. Basically, that's how I find this one smelling. It's an interesting creation that feels very refreshing in the opening. It's not your usual run-of-the-mill tobacco-based fragrance that feels dark and whatnot. It's a nice fragrance that smells very similar to the original one and costs a fraction of the price. And it also has very nice quality. I think this is one of the best Rayhaan fragrances that you can get at the moment, and also offers nice performance. And I'll keep moving up the price ladder a little bit. The last, I think, 4 or 5 fragrances that I'm about to show you are a little bit more expensive, but they also offer higher quality in my opinion. The next one that I've included comes from the brand of Al Haramain. It's part of the Amber Oud line, and it's called Tobacco Edition, and this is a famous fragrance that has been around for a while. This is one of the very best, if not the best, Middle Eastern clone of Tom Ford's Tobacco Vanilla that you can get. So basically you know what this smells like. It smells of tobacco, it smells of cinnamon, it smells of vanilla, it smells of some other spices, and this is a sweet, perfectly unisex fragrance. That the scent profile, although I think has gone past the peak of its popularity, it's still a fragrance that a lot of people really like, and this offers really nice quality. I'm a big fan of the Amber Oud line. The performance is great, it's a beastly performing scent, you know, the quality is superb. If you like Tom Ford's Tobacco Vanille, this is probably your best option when it comes to a Middle Eastern clone. I really like this one. The next one comes from the brand of French Avenue. It's a relatively new release. It's part of the Zenith line, and it's called Zenith Tobacco. This fragrance is inspired by a fragrance from the Dior Private line, which is called Dior Tabacular. This is a little bit darker than some of the other stuff that I've already showed you. Not the darkest one that I'm about to show you, but definitely one of the darker ones. It's a sweet tobacco based fragrance, but the tobacco in here feels darker, feels a lot thicker. You know, it feels like a raw tobacco leaf type of scent with a lot of honey sweetness, a hint of freshness in the opening. This is a unisex fragrance that in my opinion leans to the masculine side. I've tried a few Tabacular clones, and this is the newest one, and so far probably the best one that you can get. Nice quality, as you would expect from French Avenue. A little bit more expensive, although it's not the most expensive fragrance in you know, in the portfolio of French Avenue. And again, this is probably your best bet at the moment if you're looking for a high quality clone of Tabacular. You know, I've been quite impressed with the whole Zenith line. Zenith Tobacco from French Avenue. The next one that I'm going to show you is probably the darkest, the most serious, the most challenging fragrance that I've included in today's video. Again, it comes from French Avenue, and it's called Opus Magnum. And this fragrance is a clone of Amouage Royal Tobacco. And again, this is probably the most challenging fragrance. This is very dark. It's very thick, it's very oily. It has a strong tobacco note, it has some spices, it has a bit of greenness, but there's also a lot of incense with this one, and the combination of that strong dark tobacco note, thick tobacco note, plus the incense really makes this quite challenging. And even though this is quite challenging, it's still a fresher take on the original fragrance, and this actually smells surprisingly close to the original one, something that I didn't expect. I never thought that we're actually going to get a relatively inexpensive clone of raw tobacco, because that original fragrance smells very unique. It smells of very high quality, but the guys from French Avenue have somehow managed to come up with Opus Magnum, which smells close to the original one. It's a challenging fragrance, but again not as challenging as the original one. Still though, this is the darkest fragrance in today's video. It offers pretty strong performance, pretty beastly, and it costs about a quarter or a fifth of the price of the original one. The next one comes from the brand of Afnan. It's called Tobacco Rush, and this is another beastly performer. And this is an interesting scent that I'm a huge fan of. This, to my nose, smells similar to something like red tobacco from the guys of Mancera, but this is like a more masculine, a more rugged, like a rougher version, but in a good way, of red tobacco. So you'll get some of the sweetness from red tobacco, get some of the spiciness, you'll get the tobacco note, and you'll get the leather. But in here, this is more about the combination of the tobacco and the leather, rather than having that much sweetness, and that makes it more masculine. Although the original one is also a masculine fragrance in my opinion, although people try to sell it as unisex, but this is definitely a more masculine. I really like the combination here of the leather and the tobacco notes. It's a beast of a performer, lasts for a very long time, and I've really been enjoying Tobacco Rush from Afnan. And the last fragrance that I've included in today's video is probably is cloning what's probably my most favorite original tobacco based fragrance. Again, comes from the brand of French Avenue, and it's called Fierté Luna, and this is a clone of Naxos from Xerjoff. Now, I've waited for a long time to actually get a proper Middle Eastern clone of Naxos, and when I heard about Fierté Luna, I was really curious to try this one out just to see how good of a job French Avenue have done with the scent profile, and I'm happy to say that they've done a really good job. Now, it's not identical to Naxos. Definitely this may feel a little bit rougher around the edges compared to Naxos, but still this costs no more than 30-40% of the price of the original fragrance, while at the same time offers pretty similar performance to the original fragrance. It has some freshness, it has the lavender note of the original fragrance, it has this great combination of the honey and the tobacco, and overall this smells very classy, and it's a superb fragrance from French Avenue. So guys, in today's video I showed you 11 affordable fragrances that have a nice tobacco note in them. I hope that you found today's video interesting. If you did, give it a like, and I also hope that you're going to join me in the next one for your dose of some fragrance content. And until then, stay safe and bye bye.